Remember when heavy metal ruled our lives? When great albums and great concerts came out every month?
Yeah, the 80s.
Well, it's time to look back at those days, so take out your old vinyl
And cassettes.
put on your denim jacket.
And raise your fist in the air.
It's time for the 80s Metal Hang, a classic heavy metal podcast.
Oh, yeah.
This week, we look back at December 1983 as Slayer shows no mercy, Ozzy barks at the moon, and Accept goes balls to the wall. Also, the Killer Dwarfs and Slade on this installment of the 80s Metal Hang.
So, what are we going to start this one out with?
I don't know, Craig, what do you want to start with? You pick.
You want to just go full-blown right into Slayer?
Sure, why not? I think that was the first one actually released in December. On December 3rd, 1983, Slayer comes out with their debut album.
And they literally showed no mercy with this. This was brutal for its time. What do you think of it?
It sure was brutal. We're always trying to think of ourselves as 13, and I don't think I knew of this album in 1983, but it's definitely, I mean, if you look at the leaps just through this calendar year, some of those underground bands are just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Yeah. And now this is just...
It's another level.
Another level.
They were inspired by Metallica, of course, with Kill 'Em All. And they were actually a cover band. They were doing Maiden songs. And then they were supposedly discovered by, what was his name? Slagle?
Brian Slagle, yeah.
And he put them on the Metal Massacre 3. We went over Metal Massacre 1 and 2, and this is 3. They just kept going.
Yeah, but Brian Slagle is someone who plays such an important role back then with these Metal Massacre compilations, and he puts the Slayer song "Aggressive Perfector" on that Metal Massacre that Craig just mentioned, and that's like the first recording of this former cover band Slayer.
And they ultimately got signed.
Yeah.
To what was it, Metal Blade Records, yeah. And they did very well. It was their best-selling album that they had on the label at the time.
It's just to have like a local band putting out an album, and Metal Blade wasn't as big as it eventually became. So, you're hoping for a couple of thousand sales. So if you get 10,000 sales of an album like this on a smaller label, on a band that really has never toured, that was a big deal back then, and Slayer quickly became a big deal.
From what I saw, the average for Metal Blade was about 5,000 copies they'd sell. And Slayer was doing between 15 and 20,000. The same almost overseas. That's pretty damn good for an unknown band. And,
it was a lot of, how do they play this fast? Of course, now we've heard people play as fast as humanly possible and use studio tricks to sound even faster. But this is really like a band recorded in a basement, it sounds like. Production's not that great. Yeah, they had problems with the drums. This is the classic lineup. They didn't have any other members. This is, Kerry King, Tom Araya, Dave Lombardo, and Jeff Hanneman. So this is all of them at a very young age and, not really used to being in the studio, not used to recording. Interesting, Dave Lombardo, I was listening to it and I couldn't make it out. I don't think there's any double bass on this album. And then I did a little bit of research that says there really isn't. But when you hear songs like Die by the Sword, he later live would put double bass in. But it almost sounds a little more, I don't want to say punky, but I always thought the difference between playing fast with and without double bass kind of gave it more of a punk feeling with a single bass drum, Yeah. And like I said, their production wasn't great, but nowadays people like that. It gives it that vintage type of it. It dates it, but in a good way, I guess. Yeah, the first song, Evil Has No Boundaries, Merciful Fate just came out on an album. Their first song was just called Evil. Evil's a big part of Slayer's lyrics and image. For a while, they did the black eyeliner thing with the spikes. I know Kerry King famously had the nails on his arm for quite a while after this, but it was really just a stripped down, faster Priest, a faster Kill 'Em All. Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King, the two guitar players, they wrote all the songs on the first album. And it wasn't as sinister as it would later become. It was, you could hear some Iron Maiden influences in there sometimes with certain harmonies. But like I said, it wasn't as sinister as they would become. They became masters of making songs sound evil. Yeah. I don't know how, but you hear a couple of notes, it's Slayer. Yeah, even when they slowed down, they sounded almost more evil, And it's funny, Evil Has No Boundaries, the first song, the first thing you hear out of Tom Araya is that loud, and it's just like the opening of Angel of Death a couple years later, that famous Tom Araya scream from the pits of hell.
And I thought his voice was perfect for this. It's not the typical screaming like you hear in a lot of thrash. He's like yelling, which is a difference.
Exactly. Yeah. If they had an operatic kind of singer, it would not have worked as well as it did, as it does. But other songs on here that became famous, and I mentioned Die by the Sword, the title track, obviously.
Black Magic was a big one. I used to love that riff.
And songs that were in their set lists, for quite a while after it. It's not something that we're going to give you like, Billboard positions on, or, it didn't really rate with anyone. Do you know when the first time you heard Slayer was?
Oh, I had the record Show No Mercy. I'm not sure if it was mine or my brother's for some reason, but I remember it because it's a memorable cover. It's kind of a cartoonish picture of Baphomet standing with a sword and a pentagram.
And looking at the album this week, I think that the band picture is kind of iconic also. They're all like in the version of screaming, and Tom Araya's got his hand like pulling Dave Lombardo's hair. Like that first publicity photo from Metal Blade that's in the Show No Mercy album, I think is an iconic photograph.
It scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, really, we'd go to Record Stop, and they had those magazines, and I looked and I'd see this black and white picture of Slayer. It was scary. They look mean.
Well, we talked about Merciful Fate an episode or two ago, and it's the same thing here. Show No Mercy, not so bad, but then later they have an EP, Haunting the Chapel, and then Hell Awaits. So, you're like, who are these guys? What are these covers, and what are they singing about?
And the black and white just made it more creepy.
Yeah. It looked... I don't mean this like in a put down. It looked underground. So that was kind of an appeal of some of these albums also. Definitely. Like you didn't know the record label, the black and white, maybe the art is a little darker. It's not, even though we love Maiden, we love Priest, they're like almost mainstream in a way compared to what Slayer and some of these bands were.
Yeah, it's a certain allure to wanting the mysterious, or you don't know what it is, or you're not supposed to see this, especially with a band like this with the holding skulls and whatever else.
Absolutely. But Slayer's Show No Mercy, I mean, it's something that, Slayer obviously became an iconic band. They released remastered versions and box sets of this album later on.
Who doesn't know about Slayer? Even people who don't know anything, you hear people going, Slayer!
People just yell out. People yell it out at band shows that aren't even playing Slayer or music like it. Someone will just yell out Freebird, and then someone else will yell out Slayer, from the back of the bar. It's like, we don't know Freebird, and we're not playing Slayer to this crowd.
They were so evil that they actually got complaints from the PMRC. Big surprise.
Yeah.
They sent letters telling them to stop putting out albums. They were like, okay.
They think someone was going to listen to that?
Yeah.
They don't realize how much they actually helped sales. It became a badge of honor to have an explicit lyric sticker on your album.
I would have published those letters.
Exactly. So we end 1983 with the beginning of Slayer, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, so back then, if you ever saw a Camaro and a U-Haul, that was Tom Araya's car driving on their first tour.
Oh, that's how they went around on tour?
Yeah, they self-financed the album and the tour. They went out in his car in a U-Haul. He was a respiratory therapist. He had a good job.
Tom Araya?
Yeah.
Maybe that's how he learned to breathe and scream so evilly.
I'd love to hear his patients.
Evilly.
They're all screaming all over California.
What did he do when he had that job? He had to put in his 2 weeks notice, like, I'm going on tour with my band Slayer. Took off his white lab coat, dropped it on the desk, and just walked out into rock and roll stardom.
That would have been a sight to see.
I sure would have. Maybe there'll be a movie about Slayer someday like there is about every other band.
Yeah.
So what do you say we go over to from California where Slayer was to the hotbed of heavy metal, Germany?
Yes. Germany was going balls to the walls over there.
Oh, they sure were. And Accept came out with that album that Craig just referenced, Balls to the Wall, on December 5th, 1983. And it's not that far of a leap, actually, from Slayer to Accept, because Accept inspired people to play faster and to play double bass, all based on a song that they had on their album previous to this, Restless and Wild,
As Fast
as a Shark, which a lot of people say is the first double bass. It's not. Motorhead had it. Judas Priest had it before. But Fast as a Shark became like a rallying cry, a rallying song for people to play faster. But Accept didn't really continue going that route. They got a little more traditional metal. And this Balls to the Wall album was actually pretty successful. It was their first album to go gold in the United States.
I think it's the only album to go gold, right?
Oh, really?
I don't know. I thought so.
I would have thought
the
the next one with the Midnight Mover, it was a little more commercial. I thought that would have, but we'll get to that next year or something.
We could be wrong. If we are, just send us an email and let us know.
Yes, you accept fan club members. Reach out. But Balls to the Wall was recorded in Germany at Dieter Dierks studio, and that guy's a big producer. He produced all the Scorpions albums. He eventually would produce Twisted Sister, and he would produce future Accept albums. But it was using his studio here, and Udo. And Udo. I just said and Udo. I don't know. I don't have a question.
I don't even know what to say. Just Udo. That's another thing people know. You say the word Udo.
Yeah.
They know it's a name somehow over here.
Udo Dirkschneider, who, didn't finish his career with Accept. He's not in Accept now, but he was the recognizable singer, short front man with fatigues on, who was very different in image from every other front man back then, which, maybe helped him, actually.
Definitely not hair metal.
No. And he, along with the rest of the band, Wolf Hoffman, who's the main songwriter and still running Accept, Peter Baltz, who was the bass player who played with Dokken for a brief time, those members were the main members of Accept. Interesting album cover. It was just, it was a guy in leather, and I don't know, he's not wearing full long pants of leather, and he's holding two steel balls. And so they're kind of playing on the double entendre of Balls to the Wall, which really just means like what?
To go full throttle.
Go all out, yeah. So that expression is used. And these are guys, much like the Scorpions, who didn't have that great of a grasp on the English language, so the lyrics are pretty simplistic and maybe a little cliche-ridden, but they were written actually by Wolf Hoffman's wife, who helped write the lyrics, helped Udo with English lyrics, because a lot of these bands, whether it's the bands from Germany or Loudness from Japan, they had to sing in English to get popular around the world. And this album was pretty successful.
What do you think of this album?
Accept?
Yeah. What do you think?
I liked it. I probably listened to Accept more in the decades after than I did at the actual time. I don't think I know I never owned this album.
Yeah, same.
But the Metal Heart album, the one after this, I did own. But, there's London Leather Boys on here, Love Child, Losers and Winners is a good one. So Losers and Winners and Balls to the Wall, probably even in a cover band I've played Balls to the Wall actually once or twice.
That's like an anthem song too, It's a really good song.
It is. And so they're actually still around today with Wolf Hoffman, and they do pretty well. I mean, on the festival circuit in Europe, they definitely are not a bottom feeder, like embarrassing band that's still carrying on. They're still putting out pretty great albums.
They're pretty solid. This record is,
and they're recorded well too.
Yeah, I was going to say the recording is great, and there's really no skippable songs on here. I mean, they're not all hits, if you want to put it that way, but you could just leave it on and go for it.
They went on tour with Kiss, actually, in the United States, and they actually played with Kiss all through February and March of 1984, including at Radio City Music Hall. And I found a little tidbit that they actually opened for Kiss at Radio City, and then the next night must have been an off night, and they played L'Amour's in Brooklyn the next night. So that's pretty interesting. If you were like, let's say you went to Kiss and you went to Radio City and you saw Accept, you're like, I love that opening band. And then the next night you could see them in Brooklyn at L'Amour's. So I was looking through old L'Amour's ads, because you find those ads and they have so many bands on there that are playing before they got famous, whether it's White Lion or somebody else, Anthrax. But I saw one ad that actually had T.T. Quick in it, and the reason I thought that was interesting is Accept's current singer is a singer from the band T.T. Quick, who is a band from New Jersey that was big in the tri-state area and played at L'Amour's a lot. And now, 30, 40 years down the road, Mark Tornillo is the singer and the current version of Accept.
Very nice. I was thinking about how to describe them. They're like a respected band. What I mean is that even if you don't like them, no one really says anything bad about them. They're there. They're solid.
Yeah. If there was a 5-band lineup and you were there to see somebody else and Accept was on the bill, you'd be like, cool. You wouldn't.
Like no one says they suck.
Yeah, no one would put them down. Maybe they're not totally your cup of tea, but I'm telling you, the newer albums, was it Teutonic Terror? I forget. Like 3 albums. The last 3 Accept albums in the 2020s are good. So check them out if you get a chance. Next on our December menu of metal is, what do you want to do? Bark the Moon?
Yeah, why not?
Hey, dog, what's going down?
We've talked about Ozzy a lot. We had an whole episode dedicated to Ozzy where we mentioned, his touring and his US Festival appearance. We also did talk briefly about Bark at the Moon, but it actually came out in December in the UK. It may have come out in November in the United States, but we'll just put it here in December. I mean, I think this is the album everybody knows the most of all the ones we're talking about this episode, but it's Ozzy.
It was a great one.
Yeah.
The first one with Jakey Lee, which is he's a really great guitar player. Still is.
Yeah, I mean, it went to 19 in the United States. It sold 1 million copies in its first year, eventually 3 million copies by the 2000s. And this is, Bark at the Moon, the title track. Everyone knows it. But Rock and Roll Rebel, I always thought that song should have been a bigger song. Like we always hear about the Prince of Darkness or the Madman. I was wondering why it never stuck that Ozzy was the Rock and Roll Rebel. I think that song was great. I think that moniker could have been like one of his nicknames, but it just never really.
It was a good song,
too. And he played it on that tour, but they never played it on any tour after that. So side 1, as I remember from my vinyl, was Bark at the Moon, You're No Different, and Now You See It, Now You Don't, and Rock and Roll Rebel.
And the video for Bark at the Moon, you remember that?
Yeah.
That was crazy makeup he had on.
Yeah, one of those 4-hour, 5-hour.
Yeah, can you imagine having Ozzy sit for 4 hours doing makeup for him?
Yeah,
he must have been so antsy and just like, you done yet? Come on.
Yeah, because it wasn't like a zip-up costume over his face. Like that was real makeup on his face. The plastic and latex and the hair hanging off of it. So yeah, Bark at the Moon is everyone's first look at Jakey Lee, but he had toured with him and been at the US Festival. But Now You See It, Now You Don't. Those lyrics, like most of the lyrics on the album, were written by Bob Daisley, and he's actually addressing the lyrics to Sharon.
Yeah, he said he was surprised that they actually let it be published.
Was it overbearing woman making it so hard to see? It's definitely him. Now you know why I come and go is one of the lines, which is referencing him leaving Ozzy, coming back to Ozzy, leaving Ozzy, coming back to Ozzy. So it was an interesting love-hate thing going on with Bob Daisley, but he's the thread through the first 4 or 5 albums of the 80s. He's involved in practically every one.
And also this one is the one where Sharon notoriously refused to give Jakey Lee any writing credits.
Right.
As if Ozzy himself wrote Bark at the Moon riff and come on.
Right, and Rock and Roll Rebel and everything else. So it's well known now that Bob Daisley basically wrote all the lyrics and he and Jake wrote the music. Ozzy comes up with titles and melodies and things, but he cannot write the majority of these songs on his own, and he didn't. But they had 2 videos, the Bark at the Moon video that Craig mentioned. They also had a video for So Tired, which is
that was the ballad.
Very ballady.
Was that the one where they had, like, behind the scenes, a mirror exploded and he got cut?
He's like in an empty theater and he's backstage and he looks into a mirror. What are you saying? He got cut in real life?
Yeah, I thought it was like the mirror exploded in the video.
Right.
But if I remember right, the glass cut him. Like it shot out and cut him.
It sounds like something that would happen to Ozzy.
Yeah.
Along with all the other things. Then side 2 is Center of Eternity, So Tired, Slow Down, and Waiting for Darkness, depending on where you bought the album. If you look online now, they have 2 extra songs, Spiders and one of the B-sides. Those were not on the original album, unless you in Europe where they replaced Spiders Waiting for Darkness was replaced with Spiders. So
we
different
actually
track
know,
list.
We actually know a guy named Spider.
We do.
That's beside the point.
Well,
but
we named him Spider. And the song Center of Eternity was called Forever on early pressings of the album because it does say Forever and Ever.
And Waiting for Darkness, I love.
Great riff.
It is. We said in the Ozzy episode, it reminds me of like an 80s action movie. Like teenagers or young kids are doing something important and they're trying to get away. I don't know. It's just that's what just goes to my head.
It's building as they're looking for an escape route or something. And the album was actually mixed by Tony Bongiovi. You know who that is?
John's cousin.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
I think it was his father's cousin, yeah. And that's where he would go and record demos because his father's cousin had a studio, worked at the Power Station studio in New York City, and he would go there and record songs, one of which was the original version of Runaway. But it just jumped out on the credits that I was like, hey, that's that guy. That's cousins with that guy.
Isn't this the only album Tommy Aldridge was actually on?
Only studio album. Only studio album, yep. Yeah, Tommy Aldridge, you see him live all the time, has not played on a lot of albums. His time with Whitesnake, he only played on one album. You know, he didn't play on the Still of the Night stuff.
And he's a great drummer.
Great drummer. And, you know, a lot of people think that he was on Diver Madman, and we know he wasn't. So, yeah, Bark at the Moon is the only Ozzy album he's on. And what is it? Slip of the Tongue is the only Whitesnake album he's on. And I don't know what other recording. Well, he was in.
It's weird. He's not in the video either. It was Carmine Apiece.
Mustache power!
Right, who was their drummer for the video and for the European tour. And then by the end of '83, he was gone, and Tommy Aldridge was back.
This Ozzy band is kind of like Melrose Place or something. Everyone's switching, everybody's screwing everybody over. Everyone's coming back, going.
There's a drama, like we said.
Yes, drama.
We said in our Ozzy episode, you know, there's about 30 some odd guys who played with Ozzy just in the '80s.
It's a revolving
there's
door.
5 keyboard players, 4 bass players, 4 drummers. So, you know, there's a lot of people coming and going. But, you know, again, Bob Daisley is the thread that kind of, you know,
he's like the guy who's always
helps
there.
keep the Ozzy sound through the '80s.
Yeah.
All right, so that is Ozzy, and to another British band of the time that I'm sure crossed paths with Ozzy at some point, but not as successful, not as maybe heavy metal, but there's a band called Slade who released an album in December of '83, and probably Craig and I were talking before that should we include them, should we not include them, but they have a lot of connections to '83 heavy metal, so we thought, let's keep them. This is their 11th album. Or 11th album? Or did they have 11 albums?
Yes, their 11th studio album.
11th studio album. So it's probably the only one we're ever going to talk about. But they had a lot to do with 1983.
Yeah, they're not metal per se. They're, what would you call them? Pop, rock, or?
Yeah, they're probably part of that glam,
like
T-Rex, 70s Bowie
Sweet.
stuff. Yeah, Sweet.
But the thing is, they have really great songs. They're really catchy. You could sing them. You probably sung some of them. You don't even know it's Slade. We didn't know.
Right.
But they've been covered by so many bands. There's a list. I didn't write them all down, but Quiet Riot had 2 of their songs. Come On Feel the Noise and Mama We're All Crazy Now. The Runaways did Mama We're All Crazy Now.
Mama's Boys, I think, did that too.
Oh, the Mama's Boys. Yeah, not many people had known of them. I certainly didn't until I saw a video, and they were doing Mama We're All Crazy Now, and I thought it was cool. I didn't even realize it was a Slade song.
I wonder if we thought they were copying Quiet Riot or Quiet Riot was copying them, not realizing that they were both copying.
Then something kind of clicked. I'm like,
Slade.
Oh. And I think I mentioned the Runaways did it, right? I forget.
Yeah, I think you said.
I think that's my favorite version.
And we actually just talked in our last episode that Noddy Holder, you love those British names.
Great.
Noddy Holder and Jim, I don't know if I'm Lee or Leah, it's L-E-A, his last name, but Jim Lee, the guitarist, the songwriters of Slade, they produced the last Girl School album, Play Dirty. And so they came up on our last episode. So the connections to Girl School, Quiet Riot became so huge over 1983, and especially the song Come On Feel the Noise, that they actually got signed to CBS Records, Slade, in America, based on the success that CBS Records had with Quiet Riot. So they come out with record this album, The Amazing Kamikaze Syndrome. And we always talk about how there are different release dates in Europe and here, and an album will come out in Canada on a different day than England and a different day from here. With this album, they actually changed the title for America. So The Amazing Kamikaze Syndrome came became Slade's album, Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply.
And they didn't get any flack about that, right?
No.
Okay.
But they had the song Run, Run Away.
That's a great song. It's a catchy song.
It's got the drum beginning like a lot of their songs do. And I remember there was a video of the strange behaving singer, Noddy Holder, jumping around in a field. And it actually reached number 20 on the Billboard charts. I never would have thought that Slade had a song that charted that high.
I didn't know. And My Oh My is a good song also.
Those were 2 singles, yeah.
And for all you Britney Fox fans out there, they also did a Slade song. Just to let you know.
All right.
Goodbye to Jane. If you know that, that's not them. It's Slade.
It's Slade. So Slade had those anthemic power pop, power rock kind of songs that translated well for a lot of bands in the 80s. And that was their album. So check out Run, Run Away, My Oh My, or the whole album. Keep Your Hands Off My Power Supply.
Yeah.
The another band that I was surprised to know that they had an album out in 83 because later in the 80s, I definitely heard of them. It's a band out of Canada called the Killer Dwarfs.
I like their later stuff. I thought I was the only one in the world who knew of them, but other people do as well.
They had a video, Keep the Spirit Alive. Was that the...
Yeah.
Where the singer was being shipped in a crate or something?
Yeah. There was, I forget the other one. Stand Tall, I think.
Stand Tall was one of their albums too,
Okay.
yeah. The title of the album.
He was in a box and he was like rolling down a hill and stuff.
Yeah. He had a high voice. Some people thought he sounded Getty-ish, you know?
Kind of.
Different kind of music. But this was their debut album. It was on Attic Records. They won a Juno Award, which is Canada's version of the Grammys. For a while, they made the members' last names all Dwarf. So their singer like Russ Graham was Russ Dwarf. They actually have 6 albums, and they came out with an album as recently as 2013. But members have come and gone, although the singer is still in the band.
Any info of how they came up with that name? Were they really short? I mean,
no, not that I know of. It's hard to actually find information on the Killer Dwarfs. I couldn't even find out exactly when this album came out. They don't have a lot of links. I couldn't find any original reviews. But they appear on some of these Monsters of Rock cruises and festivals and still come out and keeping the spirit of the Killer Dwarfs alive.
It's kind of hard to find their stuff too on streaming.
This album I could, but the famous one I couldn't.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to put it on my playlist.
Yeah, you couldn't find them.
No.
Maybe on a compilation of something, but you couldn't find the Stand Tall album on Apple or Spotify.
It's a shame. It's a good
I don't know
album.
why. They're probably missing out on some streams.
Yep.
So that's the Killer Dwarfs, what we know of them. And if there are any Killer Dwarfs fans out there, feel free to reach out and educate us a little bit more on the Killer Dwarfs. But one of the biggest songs of 1984 is about to be released the single was released on the 21st of December, and the video premiered on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was a big deal, and I didn't have cable at the time, and my parents were at a party at a neighbor's house, and they had MTV. So I ran over there to watch the video and then left and went back to my house after watching the video.
So you had one of those boxes where it looked like bacon because you couldn't see through?
I didn't have anything, really.
Oh, really?
I just had the dial with like channel 2 to 13, and that was it.
Oh.
But we're not even talking about what the song is. Drum roll.
Oh. Are you ready? Jump.
Yes. Van Halen's Jump. Late December of 1983, we got to hear what Van Halen had been doing in the newly finished 5150 studios. They hadn't played a live show since the US Festival in May, and they come out with the single Jump. The B-side was actually House of Pain, which I always found interesting is when Jump became a big single, people going out and buying 45s. And, the B-side wasn't like I'll Wait or something, poppy like Jump is. It was House of Pain, which a lot of people...
Not a good match, really.
People who didn't know Van Halen, I know it sounds crazy, but we assume everyone who went out and bought Jump, had Fair Warning and had Diver Down. But a lot of times, just young kids or people hear the song on the radio, they would go buy the 45. And I wonder how many of them turned it over and listened to House of Pain and were like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, it was... It turned on a lot of people to Van Halen who wouldn't ordinarily like them. It wasn't... I'm not going to say it wasn't metal, because that's not true. But it wasn't as raw as the other albums. It wasn't as rocking. Or you listen to Fair Warning or Van Halen 1, for example. It's not like 1984. It's good.
It's the keyboards. It's the,
It's more poppy. It's more singable. And I remember a local radio station, remember WBLI?
Yes.
They would play Jump, and they would cut the solo out. And they had like a softball game between BAB and BLI, and we were just like yelling, like, "Why do you cut the solo out? Why do you?" Like we were all pissed off.
A lot of pop stations would do that. You'd hear different versions tamed down. I remember "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake had a radio version that was different, tamer, and was missing most of the original guitar
I think
solo.
Sister Christian too. They cut the solo out.
They had to get it down to 3 minutes, I guess. And I guess for a pop top 40 station, people can't handle guitar solos.
No, you can't even have a hint of metal.
That's the devil's work, those guitar solos. But the video is iconic, even though it's not iconic in the way of Michael Jackson's Thriller or Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer. It's actually famous for its simplicity of
Very
just
simple.
the four of them playing. They used to say they made it for $600 or something, which I'm sure wasn't true. But I think all of us, if you played the song right now, you can kind of close your eyes and visualize the different parts of the video.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's Michael Anthony getting down so that David Lee Roth can kick a spin over his head, or Eddie playing the solo on the keyboard. You can clearly see that there's dust all over the keyboard. Alex Van Halen's got the little mirror squares all over his drums, and his toms are like rototoms.
And that weird part with David Lee Roth where he mouthed something, but there was nothing in the song, and they edited in, ow, ow.
Yeah, well, after the breakdown, after the solo, when the intro starts again, he just goes, wow. And yeah, you're right. And it's not
in the song.
the version on the album. But now, when you hear it without that scream, I know exactly where that scream goes from the video. And then at the end, they do the thing where all three of them, Dave, Eddie, and Michael Anthony, are jumping forwed, synchronized.
Like shimmying.
Which they had done in the Hear About It Later video from a couple years earlier. But that video helps bring Jump to number one, where it goes to number one on February 25th, 1984, stays there for 5 weeks. And I'm always interested in these things. I went and looked it up to see what was the number one song before and after it.
Oh.
So before it was Karma Chameleon by Culture Club.
Oh, good Lord.
And then 5 weeks of Jump at number one, to be replaced.
5 weeks.
Yes, to be replaced by a song from the latest Kevin Bacon movie, Footloose.
Oh.
The title track, Footloose, by Kenny Loggins.
Oh, Kenny Loggins. Didn't George have a cousin called Kenny Loggins?
Yes, we had a friend who's we thought his brother-in-law looked exactly like Kenny Loggins.
So we would just call him Loggins.
We would call him Kenny too, and eventually people started calling him Kenny, and they thought that was his real name because they heard us all call him Kenny, but his name was
something Greek and long.
Something Greek, yeah. Yanni. Was it Yanni?
Just Loggins.
Kenny Loggins. The iconic beard and,
the mustache, slight mullet.
Yeah, exactly. Sunglasses. The Kenny Loggins look of 1983. But we were more interested in the Van Halen look. Obviously, in another episode, we'll talk about the whole 1984 album. But probably the highlight of December for us at 13 was Van Halen's got a new album coming out. And the first video is premiering on New Year's Eve. So that was Jump.
And I wasn't upset with the keyboards. Later stuff, yeah, but this was good. And I remember being upset. We'd see remember Circus Magazine had those
of course,
every year. Yeah, and they were like, who's the best guitar player? Who's the best bass player?
Yeah.
And Eddie would win for best keyboards. And I was like, well, pissed off. I'm like, he's not even a keyboard player.
Well, very few bands had keyboard players that would appear in that magazine. So yeah, you'd see like the top 5 keyboard players in a poll would be like Geddy Lee and Eddie Van Halen. And it's like, wait, how about put a real keyboard player there?
But now I find out that Eddie actually was a brilliant piano player as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But popularity contests.
Piano's not metal, so I didn't want to hear about it.
Piano. There's one big concert that we obviously weren't aware of in 1983 living on Long Island because it was taking place in Germany. But in later years, when looking at YouTube and looking into the history of certain bands, there was a huge festival in Dortmund, Germany called the Pop and Rock Festival. And this was the running order. It was Quiet Riot, Crocus, MSG, Def Leppard, Ozzy, Judas Priest, the Scorpions, and Iron Maiden closed the night. They did 2 shows back to back. They recorded all these bands for German television, and all of the band's sets are available on YouTube, and even Iron Maiden released their set on one of their DVD compilations. But it's a really interesting way to close out 1983 because you have a couple of bands like Quiet Riot and Def Leppard and Iron Maiden that just had unbelievable 1983s.
What a year. I didn't realize it was this crazy until we started doing this podcast. And all, like, we heard Holy Diver, Peace of Mind, The Bark at the Moon, Us Festival.
Yeah.
Insanity.
A lot of crazy metal. So you have Quiet Riot wrapping up all the number one success, the multi-million Metal Health. You have Def Leppard, same thing with Pyromania, one of the best-selling albums of 83. So they're closing out their tours, as is Iron Maiden, who actually killed Eddie at the end. They had the straitjacket Eddie. He came walking out, and it was their last show, and they really overdid it by hitting him with their guitars. And Dave Murray hit him with a guitar, but Bruce Dickinson pulled his brain out.
Oh boy!
So that now
That's not nice.
He's dead now, and only to be resurrected on their next album, Power Slave.
Ooh. Did they do this at every show, or just the last show?
That last show. That was the only time they were tackling and beating up the poor guy on stilts in the Eddie costume. Yeah, and it's on video. You can see it on YouTube. But I don't know if they had planned that, hey, we're going to have Eddie come back to life, the next album, and it's going to be Egyptian themed, and he's going to be in a coffin. I don't know if that was part of it. If Derek Riggs told him, kill Eddie the last show. So I have an idea.
Yeah, I have something sketched out. You have to do this.
But Ozzy's about to start. He just started the Bark at the Moon tour, so it's interesting to see this Dortmund festival because you see the band that's going to be touring for 1984 for the Bark at the Moon tour. You see the Scorpions before they released Love at First Sting in 84. And Judas Priest is about to come out with Defenders of the Faith in a month or two, and they actually debut a song that no one had heard before called Free Will Burnin', which they played on this show before anyone heard Defenders of the Faith.
I thought that song was so fast when it came out.
Yeah, you wonder if they knew what was coming from some of the underground bands, and they're like, let's do a fast one, you know? And because, you know, that middle part where he starts singing very quickly, look before you leap, and never make it free. Yeah, so that's Judas Priest getting faster and faster for Free Will Burnin'.
They're actually putting the balls to the wall with that one.
Yes, they are.
That's a real life example of how to use that phrase.
Exactly.
See what I did?
I see what you did there. You're going full circle.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
You are hip. So that is December of 1983.
And all I got to say is this. Slayer!
All right, so we try to end as many episodes as we can with random questions where Craig and I ask each other questions that the other person's not aware of.
Yeah, we don't tell them. No cheating.
Just to see your hot takes about different topics of 80s metal. So,
who goes first?
I can ask you first. I think of, maybe because I'm a drummer, I think of drum-related questions sometimes. So I'm going to ask you because I think it was very much an 80s metal thing to have songs start with drums. Mm-hmm. So what is your favorite metal drum intro of the 1980s?
I mean, I immediately want to go to Over the Mountain.
All right, that's a good one.
But
should I give you choices?
Yeah.
All right, you got Living After Midnight. You got We're Not Going to Take It. Run to the Hills. Where Eagles Dare.
Oh,
that was the lift off the top of my head. Now I can't think of anything else.
I think I'm still gonna go with Over the Mountain.
Okay,
but close second would be Living After Midnight. It's just a basic beat, but it's like iconic. You know it.
Yes, if you think about what drum passages you could do like in a bar or at a concert venue that people would immediately recognize. And Come On Feel the Noise had one, but that's so simplistic that people may not recognize it. They may think it's a little We Will Rock You or something. Over the Mountain, I think, while not one of Ozzy's biggest songs, I think I agree. Run to the Hills is very iconic also.
I almost said that, but I went Living After Midnight.
I think a lot of people would say Run to the Hills, but even for Maiden, I would say Where Eagles Dare, which I just love that intro. All right,
you ready?
Yes.
All right, we spoke about Slade.
Oh boy.
And how many people have covered their songs.
Okay.
Like Runaways, Quiet Riot, Mama's Boys. So think about what if Slade was going to cover a heavy metal song? Like The Tables Are Turned.
Okay.
What song would you like to see them do?
Well, they were a very anthemic band with a lot of like power pop rock kind of sensibilities. So I think it would have to be something along those lines, something a little more simplistic. So something, maybe We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister, something Twisted Sister-ish.
That would work.
I Want to Rock, maybe. Judas Priest had, we were just talking about this with drum intros. Live After Midnight is kind of like that. I'm trying to go through bands in my head.
Something melodic, maybe.
Yeah, something Scorpions, Priest, not Maiden. Definitely not Maiden.
Crazy Train would be a good one.
Crazy Train. Yeah, I think Crazy Train, that might be good. I don't know if they would have the complex guitar playing in their version.
Has to be simple.
Yeah, has to be simple. Maybe they could cover a Quiet Riot song. Maybe they could do like Party All Night or something by Quiet Riot, or they could do The Wild and the Young by Quiet Riot. I don't know. That's I'm gonna go with We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sister. It sounds like something I could picture the Slade singer singing.
Yes, and the song it would fit their way.
They were big on drum intros also, because Mama We're All Crazy Now and Come On Feel the Noise both had drum intros, and Run Runaway. So I'm going to have Slade do We're Not Going to Take It by Twisted Sister.
And there you have it, folks.
Random questions for this week. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at the 80s Metal Hang.
That's 80S.
Where you can see photos in our weekly episode scrapbook.
We also have a YouTube channel with video playlists that pair with each episode.
And on Spotify, we have playlists highlighting the albums and songs discussed each week.
And please be sure to subscribe and comment wherever you get this podcast.
Oh, yeah.